Guys, I just watched Spider-Man Brand New Day last night, and here's my thoughts. It was a great movie. It was a great movie, but it was not amazing. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. First of all, the villains, they the director and Marvel and everybody set everybody up. And here's gonna be the spoilers are incoming, so if you haven't seen it, don't watch this. Don't watch it yet. The villains, the ones that we see in the trailers, they don't really have a huge part in the movie. I think that was mostly just fan service, and I particularly didn't like that because I was really looking forward to seeing him go toe to toe with Boomerang, and he had like a little tiff with Scorpion, but it wasn't really much of anything at all. But there were some good there were some very good parts. The hand had a nice role in the movie. Eventually, we got Tom Holland back as Peter Parker, and the film follows the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home. As you know, he had to erase everyone's memory of him, and it pretty much picks up after that. A few years after that, rather. It is definitely this summer. It's Marvel's biggest release. It's definitely Marvel's biggest release this summer. They're competing with DC. DC just dropped Supergirl. They got the Lanterns project dropping, but this is definitely Marvel's biggest release this summer. Sadie Sink, she was in it, and her role was the worst kept secret in Hollywood. She everybody knows she was playing Jean Grey. She said, "Oh, Scrunchy." She gave all these hints and this and that, and like we theorized and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It was spoiled from us right from the jump, from the moment it was announced. Zendaya returned. She played a good role. Frank Castle was in there, Punisher. We had Scorpion was in there. We had the Hulk. Black Widow was in there. Man, it was a nice ensemble cast. It was a nice ensemble cast. It was the typical Marvel humor. I like the light in which they played Frank Castle. They made him seem like a bit of a fun guy. All right. The rumors that concerned me for this movie was the many roles that Sadie Sink was portrayed to play. You know, and as a speculator, I collect comic books. I buy comic books in speculation. Try to buy them before stuff gets announced. And so, I was going around. I was buying ASM like 300, and I was buying the first appearance of Boomerang and Tarantula and Tombstone, who was also in the movie, but he was in there. He had like 10 seconds of screen time. It really makes you like rethink the way you do things, man. For real, seriously. But yeah, man, it's all those rumors of and reports of the numerous Marvel characters appearing. They appeared, but it was very very brief. Now the movie becoming another crossover story instead of a true Spider-Man story. It was a bit of both because it was a very well done Spider-Man movie. As far as crossovers, it definitely crossed over into the X-Men universe. We got the new Avengers in there, went to Punisher street level. So it's definitely a nice crossover event. Now, like I said, man, the rumored villains, we heard Tombstone was gonna have a huge role, Scorpion, the Hand, and it ended up being, Damage Control. Damage Control were the biggest villains in this. You know, and I'm expecting. I was like, yeah, they're gonna do Mr. Negative and all this and that, and ended up pretty much being Jean Grey and Damage Control. So I mean, I was a bit disappointed. I'll admit, I was a bit disappointed. Even though Sadie thinks she played the role of Jean Grey fairly well. I could see her playing that role for years to come. But man, like they did. I feel like Marvel did us wrong. Marvel definitely did us wrong, and that leads me to my biggest worries. Like, is this going to be the trend for movies? like moving forward? Are they going to tease all these characters and in trailers and all that, and just to only give them 10 seconds of screen time? Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah, they're definitely, to me, I feel like they relied a little too heavily on cameos. Now, the cameos in this one, they did well. They did well. I enjoyed, like I said, Jean Grey, Frank Castles, and Day and Ned. I enjoyed all those guys. Black Widow, she was okay. She provided some humor. I want what I want in these Marvel movies is a grounded story. I want a villain that is threatening to wipe out the entire like city, and then this like it didn't progress it to like a global standard. You know, like that. That's what I want. That's what I want. And this movie, it was much more grounded. It was much more grounded. But you want those like city level threats. And I don't think that necessarily got that with Damage Control. And we got that with Jean Grey for sure, because she had froze a whole block. But it was definitely like a more grounded Spider-Man story, street crime and neighborhood stakes. Neighborhood stakes. It was very strong character development for Peter Parker. It not only is tracking Tom Holland into adulthood, but it's tracking like Peter Parker too. Because Tom Holland's been Spider-Man for 10 years now. Just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that rumors are often wrong. Rumors are often wrong. And with the Sadie Sink rumor, we were right about that. Everybody was right. So Marvel definitely surprised fans before, but this was like the worst kept secret for them. The worst kept secret. Now, you guys, let me know, what was your biggest concern? Which rumor came true that you actually, had high hopes for? Do you want to see a street level Spider-Man movie or another MCU big event? Spider-Man doesn't need another movie where he's like sharing the spotlight with half the MCU. After No Way Home, Marvel has a chance to tell Peter Parker's most personal story yet. And, I feel like they just kind of like went along with it in this one. So let me know you guys' thoughts. Are your expectations high, low, somewhere in between? Let me know. And I will catch you guys with another Bad Take soon. Peace.